Hello everyone. Today we will discuss the structures and functions of the endocrine organ, thyroid. Normally, we cannot see the thyroid gland clearly in the neck. However, we can easily spot this gland if it's enlarged, forming a goiter, as shown in this case. 35-year-old Rose felt a mass in front of her leg, had weight loss, palpitations, and sweating in the wrist 2 months. Her husband said she had protruding eyes and was more nervous than before. Her blood test showed that T3 and T4 were elevated and the TSH was lower than normal. The doctor told Rose that she had hypothyroidism. After this session, you should be able to identify the microscopic structure of the thyroid gland, describe the synthesis and secretory process of thyroid hormone T3 and T4, and explain some associated clinical changes. Thyroid is found at the front of the leg, over the trachea just inferior to the larynx, as a butterfly-shaped structure. Microscopically, the thyroid gland is composed of spherical follicles separated by loose connective tissue rich in capillaries. The diameter of each follicle is 0.02 to 0.9 mm. The wall of each follicle is formed by a layer of cuboidal or squamous epithelial cells called follicular cells or thyrocytes. They are responsible for the synthesis of thyroid hormones. We can easily identify the Golgi complex, rough endoplasmic reticulum, mitochondria, and lysosomes through transmission electron microscopy. The center lumen of the follicles is filled with a jelly-like substance called colloid, the place for storing the synthesized product by follicular cells. It's unusual for an endocrine organ to store product outside of the cells. Production of thyroid hormone is a complex process with multiple steps as shown in this picture. Firstly, the follicular cells take amino acids from the blood and produce the precursor of thyroglobulin in the rough endoplasmic reticulum. After glycosylation in the Golgi apparatus, thyroglobulin is released into the follicular lumen. Secondly, the follicular cells pick up iodide from the blood by sodium iodide pump in the basal cell membrane. The iodide in the follicular cells is concentrated to about 30 times higher than in the blood. The iodide is finally transported to the lumen through the apical side of the follicular cells. Then, the colloid of the follicular lumen, 1 or 2 molecules of activated iodide combine with thyroglobulin tyrosine residues to form iodinated thyroglobulin. Under the influence of thyroid-stimulating hormone TSH, follicular cells endocytose the iodinated thyroglobulin to form colloid vesicles. Lastly, the colloid vesicle fills with lysosomes, where the iodinated thyroglobulin is decomposed by proteases. There are 2 final products. One product is composed of thyroxine residue with 3 iodine atoms. That is triiodothyronine, T3. The other product consists of tyrosine residues with 4 iodine atoms, that is tetraiodothyronine, which we call T4 or thyroxine. Both T3 and T4 are thyroid hormones, which bind into the same intercellular receptors of target cell. T4 is more abundant in our circulation, but T3 is more active than T4. Generally, our body produces massive amounts of T4, which break down into T3 based on the need. Decreased level of circulating iodide will result in higher T3 to compensate the function of thyroid hormones. Prolonged decrease of iodide, for example, dietary deficiency, will inhibit thyroid hormone production. Then, the low blood level of thyroid hormones will stimulate the anterior pituitary gland to produce more TSH. This leads to enlargement of the thyroid gland, that is, goiter. The functions of T3 and T4 mainly include two aspects. One is regulation of the metabolic rate, another is promoting growth and sustaining the activity of the nervous system. Because of these two functions, hypothyroidism will cause a series of clinical symptoms. The increased T3 and/or T4 keep the whole body at an active or excited state, such as rapid heart rate and reflexes, increased appetite, and frequently bowel movements. The patient would also have sleep disturbance and weight loss, etc. As a regulatory feedback, the high level of thyroid hormones inhibits TSH production by the anterior pituitary. That is why the laboratory tests often show increased T3 and T4, no TSH in the hypothyroidism. Based on these two functional aspects of thyroid hormone, can you list the clinical symptoms of hypothyroidism in adults? What additional attention should we pay to children suffering from hypothyroidism? In addition to producing thyroid hormones, the thyroid gland can also secrete another hormone to participate in the regulation of blood calcium levels. This hormone is calcitonin and is synthesized by parafollicular cells. The parafollicular cells, arrowed in this figure, accumulate between the follicles or are embedded between the follicular cells. The parafollicular cells are larger than follicular cells. In routine tissue slides, the cytoplasm of parafollicular cells is slightly stained, so they are also called clear cells or C cells. The silver impregnation staining shows the calcitonin-containing argentophin granulars in the cytoplasm. Calcitonin inhibits the activity of osteoclasts in bone and stimulates the excretion of calcium by the kidney. These actions lower blood calcium concentration. By contrast, parathyroid hormone secreted by parathyroid glands exerts opposite functions to calcitonin, thus increase the blood calcium. Calcitonin works in concert with parathyroid hormone to regulate the calcium level of the blood. In summary, there are mainly two kinds of endocrine cells in the thyroid: follicular cells and parafollicular cells. They produce thyroid hormones and calcitonin, involved in the regulation of metabolism and the nervous system, and the control of blood calcium level, respectively. I hope you can apply this basic information to explain the mechanism of thyroid disorders. Here are the references for this session. Thank you.